I want to start with something that might surprise you. The therapist started seeing a therapist. Lori Gottlieb is one of the most well-known therapists in America. She's helped hundreds of patients through their deepest pain. She knows all the techniques, all the theories, all the right questions to ask. And then her own life fell apart. Her relationship ended in a way she didn't see coming, and suddenly she was the one sitting in the patient's chair, struggling with the exact things she had spent years helping other people through. This is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. Funny, heartbreaking, honest, and ultimately one of the most hopeful books ever written about what it means to be human. And by the time this video is over, you're going to understand yourself and other people in a way you didn't before. Plus, your English is going to be richer, more emotional, more real. Let's go. Lori starts the book by introducing us to 4 of her patients: a successful Hollywood producer who thinks everyone else is the problem, a young woman with a terminal diagnosis who is terrified of dying, a newlywed who is convinced she made the wrong choice, and an older man who has been married and divorced 3 times and still doesn't understand why. Meanwhile, Lori is falling apart in her own personal life, and her own therapist, a warm, wise man named Wendell, is slowly helping her see things she has been refusing to look at. Here's what's beautiful about this setup. It shows you that everyone is fighting something. The successful producer, the therapist, the young bride, nobody has it fully figured out. We are all in some way sitting in the patient's chair, confused about something, hurting from something, hoping someone will help us make sense of it. One of the most powerful ideas in this book is simple. We all have a story we tell about ourselves, a story about who we are, why things happen to us, what we deserve. And most of us have been telling the same story for decades without questioning it. The person who says, "I always end up alone. That's just how my life goes." The person who says, "I'm not the kind of person who gets the promotion." The person who says, "People always leave me. Always." These aren't facts. They're stories written a long time ago by a younger, more frightened version of you. Therapy, and honestly, any real self-reflection, is about asking, is this story still true? Was it ever true? Or is it a cage I built to protect myself that I forgot was a cage? The most important stories aren't the ones we tell other people. They're the ones we tell ourselves at 3 a.m. when nobody's watching. In therapy, there's a term called the presenting problem. It's what brings someone to therapy in the first place. My marriage is falling apart. I can't stop crying. I have panic attacks. But here's what Lori discovered again and again. The presenting problem is almost never the real problem. It's the symptom, not the source. Like an iceberg, what you can see above the water is the complaint. What's underneath, in the cold dark, is what's actually going on. Her Hollywood producer patient comes in furious at everyone in his life, his assistants, his ex-wife, his adult children. It takes months before they get to what's really underneath. Grief, fear, a loneliness so deep he can't even name it. This is true for almost everyone. When you're angry all the time, what are you actually afraid of? When you're controlling everything, what do you actually feel powerless about? The surface emotion is almost never the whole story. Here's something that blew my mind when I read it. The things that are most annoying about us, our defenses, were originally our superpowers. The person who is always sarcastic and deflects with humor, they grew up in an environment where expressing real feelings wasn't safe, so humor became protection. The person who controls everything and can never relax, they grew up somewhere chaotic and unpredictable, so control became survival. The person who never asks for help and does everything alone, they learned early that depending on others leads to disappointment, so independence became armor. These weren't weaknesses, they were solutions, smart, creative solutions that a young mind came up with under pressure. The problem is, you're not that age anymore. The threat is gone, but the defense is still running, and now it's not protecting you. It's keeping out the exact things you need most: love, connection, help, intimacy. Here's the paradox at the heart of this book. People come to therapy because they want things to change, and then they do everything in their power to make sure nothing changes. They cancel sessions, they change the subject, they stay in the same patterns. Why? Because change, even good change, is terrifying. Because the known pain is more comfortable than the unknown possibility. Lori talks about this with her own therapist, Wendell. She knows what she needs to do, she just can't make herself do it. And Wendell says something she never forgets. He says the most courageous thing a person can do is change something they've done their whole life. Not climb a mountain, not run a marathon, change a pattern that has defined them. That's the hardest thing humans do, and the most necessary. You don't have to know how to change, you just have to be willing to want to. That's the first step, and it's the whole step. At its core, this book is about one thing: being seen. Not fixed, not advised, not judged. Just seen, fully, as you actually are. Lori writes about a moment with her patient, the young woman with the terminal diagnosis. After months of sessions, she says something quietly. She says, "You know what's strange? I've never felt this known by anyone." And Lori realizes that's what therapy actually is. Not technique, not theory, just one human being paying full, genuine attention to another, saying, "I see you, I'm here, you matter." And then Lori goes to her own session with Wendell and realizes she has never felt this known either. Here's what that tells us. The deepest human need isn't success. It isn't even love in the romantic sense. It's to be known. To have someone look at all of you, the messy, complicated, contradictory all of you, and not look away. You deserve that from someone, maybe yourself first. You just spent time with one of the most honest books ever written about being human. And here's what I hope you take from it. You are not the only one struggling. The therapist struggled. Her patient struggled. Every single person you've ever admired is fighting something you can't see. And the bravest thing any of us can do is stop pretending we're fine when we're not. Reach out to someone. A therapist if you can, a friend if you can't. Or just start with yourself. Honest, gentle, curious. Ask, what story am I telling? Is it still true? What defense am I hiding behind that used to protect me but is now keeping me small? What would my life look like if I let myself be fully seen? That's the work, and it's the most worthwhile work there is. Subscribe to Luminae Minds for a new book every week. Real ideas, real English, real growth. Thank you for being here. And hey, maybe you should talk to someone. I'll catch you in the next one.